this is Kermit the Frog.
Fascinating. I'm Captain Kirk.
Magic is always there, as long as we keep looking for it.
Engage.
What does God need with a starship?
Thank you, love you. Mwah.
I protest. I am not a merry man.
Places, please. And here we go.
Down at Fraggle Rock.
Welcome, doozers, gorgs, trash heaps, and Lesepians of things to episode 134 of MuppeTrek podcast. I'm Jarman.
And I'm Steve, and I just misread what Jarman was going to read for a second there.
Did you now?
I did.
Because I saw it was on the page, and I'm like, oh no, that's wrong.
Yeah. We're on a journey across the stars to compare and contrast the creative worlds of Jim Henson and Gene Roddenberry.
What started as reviews of The Muppet Show and Star Trek, the original series, has expanded to outer space.
That's right. And this week we have Fraggle Rock episode, The Finger of Light, and Star Trek Next Generation episode, The Schizoid Man.
But before that, Steve, I'm ready to rock.
I want to rock!
There are all kinds of gems, jewels, and geodes in the world, many of which can be found right here in Fraggle Rock. This week we've got appetite, not spelled the way you think. And I hope that you brought yours to hear about this lovely gem. This gem got its name from the Greek word apatao, which means to deceive, because this mineral is often mistaken for other very desirable minerals. And then people found it and they're like, God, I've been deceived by this goddamn gem. Cut versions of this gem are incredibly rare because it is incredibly brittle, which is a shame because it is beautiful when it can be cut and comes like in these greens and blues and yellows and oranges. They do make synthetic versions of it that are easier to work with, but for whatever reason, the synthetics versions have a weird color changing principle that the originals don't, and they haven't been able to figure out why. So because of that, you're not going to see it in a lot of stuff. So that's appetite, and that rocks.
That rocks, and check it out online, folks. It's a pretty stone.
Appetite.
Yeah. That's what I meant to do.
What's happening this week? Well, what's up, Doc? Doc invents a vegetable sound system. As Sprocket looks on, Schimmelfinny, his hated neighbor, has the whole neighborhood sign a petition telling Doc to cut it the hell out, but he is unwilling to relent. Eventually, he gives it up, sitting outside on his porch, where I don't think we've ever seen him before.
No, I don't think so.
Though forced to shut down the music, his plants are outrageous and huge. What's going down in Fraggle Rock this week? Well, there's pickle balancing, a big competition. Gobo is the world champion while Red balances too. Nose to nose, they goes. Wembley fails, though. He sucks at this. Suddenly, the world's oldest Fraggle shows up and tells everyone about a game. Then whoever wins becomes the ruler of the rock. A weird Igor-type creature named Marlin, who is actively trying to start a cult. They talk about this so just sort of passively. That means that cults exist in Fraggle culture, the point where people know about them and talk about them openly.
So he's the Trump trying to run for leader of the rock, basically.
That is correct. He's got some very strong ideas. So the others kind of volunteer, sort of. They head to the Echo Hole, the deepest place that Fraggles know, where they must cross a bridge, and those who are brave enough can stand, and one of them will be hit by a beam of light, the finger of light, and be declared ruler of the rock. It's all very convoluted. The Fraggles kind of discuss about what they're going to do for the betterment of Fraggles when whoever's the ruler, but none of them have really good ideas. Gobo splits off at one point to go get Uncle Traveling Matt's postcard. That's a weird moment because he didn't need to and he doesn't get it then, so it's weird. Yep. They have to cross a flimsy bridge to get to the Finger of Light. 4 of them cross. It's time, and Mokie is ordained. Mokie gets 3 commandments, but on a set amount of time. Everyone throws ideas at her, and she asks everyone to be quiet, which burns her first commandment. Gobo and Red are both disappointed they're not the rulers of the rock. They sing an upbeat song about it called Feelin' Yucky. Mokie returns and is crowned. Boober suggests germ-proof masks for everybody, Uber is standing on her tail. She asks him to move and she burns yet another command. Mokie wanders off depressed and everyone assumes that she is exiled. Gomer reads Uncle Traveling Matt's postcard about mysterious string creatures, and we'll talk more about that later. Mokie mopes about what to do with her final command, but resolves to return. She sings about it with Live as One, which becomes her final command, kind of. Even a doozer sings along. Everyone sings along. Even one person even has a sign that says Gorg equal Fraggle on it.
Is that what that said? Okay. Yeah.
Mokie uses her actual final command to have Wembley balance a pickle on his nose for everyone's enjoyment. He finally does it. And then everyone's balancing pickles and celebrating. So that's what was going down in Fraggle Rock. German, what did you think of this week's episode of Fraggle Rock?
I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. You'll really enjoy the oldest Fraggle. He is a lot of fun, and he's a little bit of a chauvinist. He's like slapping some butts, and he's like going around like having a good time. But he seems like a fun time. He's a good guy.
Seems like a fun time.
Marlin was creepy as hell, and they did a great job.
Marlin was on a different level, and whenever I've got to look up who it is. I want to say it was Dave Goelz. Can't be 100% sure about that. But it's one of the voices of the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal.
That makes sense. Yep.
That's who it is.
Yep. That totally makes sense.
Restrain your essences. Like that's Dark Crystal.
They purposely give the puppet a like crossed eyes. Like he looks so creepy and fucking weird.
He looks Igor.
yeah, Igor kind of thing. And he's just like, he is. And I wrote my notes. They should keep an eye on this guy or just give him to the Gorgs as a sacrifice. Like this guy's weird. Also, so we'll talk about it later, but there's a marionette scene with Traveling Matt. So we have Traveling Matt talking with a marionette, which I was like, that's really cool. But the puppeteer of that marionette was giving major
like a tugboat captain.
I said giving major Marlin vibes.
That's Marlin.
That's Marlin right there. That guy was creepy as hell.
No, I thought he looked like a fisherman from a frozen bag of fish fillets.
Yeah, like, from Denmark or something. Yeah. Red has a great quote in this episode, which you should all use in your modern vernacular. I want to use it, which is, "Oh man, that was snore pie with yawn sauce." I want to use that in regular.
I feel like that would go well on t-shirts. I feel like that would
snore pie with yawn sauce.
Yawn sauce.
And also I put, this is what happens when you put a hippie in charge of things, because Mokie, they put her in charge and hippies can't be trusted with putting in charge of anything because
burns 2 commandments almost immediately. And
then when she gives them the last commandment that's important, don't fuck this up. She's like, "Oh, why don't we love each other?" I'm like, we need direction. What do you want us to do? Love each other.
I like that even the oldest Fraggle was like, they don't need a commandment. They want one. It's for the game.
Make hemp necklaces? I don't know. So it's just like, oh God, Mokie. Jesus. But no, I love Mokie. She's fantastic. But just don't put hippies in charge of shit.
So I think this is one of my lower episodes.
Oh, really?
Season. I did like Marlin. I felt like he deserved a better episode than this.
Marlin did?
I felt like, yeah, even for Fraggle Rock, this premise was just so overlaid. Like literally an old man had to show up and literally spell out the premise of what was going to happen in the rest of the episode and then restated it over and over again everywhere they went. So it was just one of those things where I was like, God, just let us discover something. Stop prescribing everything.
Well, yeah, I like that they had the old man come out. What's the old man going to say? We'll find out. And he's like, it's time to pick the new leader for who gets 3 commandments. That was fine by me, but just you're upset more like that he was like having to reiterate it over and over again.
No, but then he went with them to do that. Where are we going? To this where are we going? And he got there. Now we have to cross the bridge. Like, yeah, we know you told us. And then when we get there, it'll be the light. Yes, we know. That's why we're all here.
I like that part.
Keep telling us.
I like the repeating of the song, and it was fun.
I hope that really, if anything, I hope that we get what's his face in a different episode. I hope we get Marlin in some of the.
Oh, he better come back because he's creepy as hell. Like, I want to see where that guy goes up again.
So maybe this will land more middling. I love Marlin so much, and you're right. This was maybe like one of the better Uncle Traveling Matt sections.
Yeah.
Add to that like a good, sweet Doc plot. Like maybe this one's more middling than I'm giving it credit for.
Oh, absolutely. Like Doc plot was great. Like I put that in my notes too, that he was just like, I liked that it's just showing more how he's so just a crazy recluse with his dog who's just playing loud music. We were like, dude, stop playing loud music. We've signed a petition. Stop playing this loud music.
Schimmelfinny.
Schimmelfinny. No, not just Schimmelfinny. The whole fucking neighborhood wants you to shut up.
You see how many names are on that?
Yeah. And the dog signs it. He's like, oh God, please stop playing music. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I put this as one of my top episodes of the season.
Oh my God, you piece of shit.
So yeah, there you go. Different thoughts there.
What was your favorite Muppeteering moment this week?
Well, that's not what's coming up next.
Oh, silly creatures. What the fuck are they up to?
Yeah.
Uncle Travel Matt encounters curious string creatures, which he bears a strange family resemblance to. Their leader, the one pulling the strings, ends up stringing up Uncle Traveling Matt, who falls under his spell and is marionetted about. Marionette literally means little Mary in French because most early puppet plays with string puppets were biblical plays, and a lot of them featuring the Virgin Mary.
I had no idea that's where that term came
that's
from.
Marionette, little Mary.
Huh.
Evidence of their existence goes back, though, as far as ancient Egypt in 2000 BC. Then in ancient Greece, they were called Nevros Pastos, which means drawn by a string. So that all the way from ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, both Archimedes and Plato reference puppets in their work, string puppets in their work. But most of us only really know one famous string puppet, and that's Howdy Doody.
It's Howdy Doody time.
Doody time.
It's Howdy
That
Doody
was 40 years before Jarman and I's time, and somehow we know the theme.
Yes. And I will say it was reiterated when I got into this marriage because my wife's grandparents, when they want to have a drink, they don't say any particular time of the day is right for a drink. They say it's Howdy Doody time. That means it's time for a drink.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's part of my life now forever.
So that's what those silly creatures are up to with marionettes.
Very nice.
So now what did you think was the best puppeteering moment this week?
I would say it's a simple moment, but I recognize that it probably was difficult to pull off was the Fraggles crossing the little bridge and holding hands. When they were going across, it was a wide shot, and they were all holding hands and moving across the bridge. And I was like, that was probably a lot harder than what we just saw on the screen. Like it's a very fast moment, but it was probably very difficult to move that around and not show the strings and not show everything happening. So yeah, that was my moment. I was like, I get that. As a filmmaker, I see that would be probably pretty difficult.
For me, my runner-up moment was very close to that. Just before that, when they're all peering down into the hole.
Oh yeah,
they had that big kind of gaping, and I was like, hey, where does the green screen or blue screen take over?
That looked really good. Yeah, you're not wrong.
It was a good moment right before the one you're talking about.
Yeah,
but that ended up coming in second. The first half of Uncle Traveling Matt's interaction with the marionette before Uncle Traveling Matt was on strings was just so enchanting and so neat to see the different movements and illustrating that while they're based on similar concepts, that the Muppets could just get so much more expressiveness
with the hand
than what a marionette could ever do.
Oh, you're right. And the marionette was trying to copy its movements a little bit in that movement. It was very interesting. Yeah. Very meta.
So just seeing them side by side was both meta, but just cool to see the comparison.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that ended up winning out.
Fair.
So, John, what happened on this week's episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Oh my gosh. Well, we have the Schizoid Man. The Enterprise is sent to give medical assistance to a respected scientist, Dr. Ira Graves, who lives on a remote planet by himself with his assistant, Karine Brianon. But on the way, though, they receive a distress call from another ship who we'll never hear about again, so they have to quickly drop an away team to give him assistance to go off to save that ship. So Data, Worf, Troy, and Dr. Solar, a Vulcan medical assistant on the ship, go to help Dr. Graves in the away team. Apparently, his assistant Kareen had sent for assistance without Dr. Graves' knowledge because she was worried about his health. And when they arrive, it's quickly evident that Dr. Graves is a huge dick. He treats women like objects. He's racist, xenophobic, cool stuff. He says he doesn't need any help, but when Solar scans him, she finds out that he has something called Darnay's disease and only has a short while to live. Then they start collecting his research to preserve his research for after his death. And meanwhile, Data goes off to talk to him for a while. And he finds out that Graves apparently taught Dr. Soong, the man who created all the androids, he taught Dr. Soong everything he knows. So that would technically make Dr. Graves Data's grandpa. So he insists that Data calls him grandpa. Graves tells Data that he has made a machine to which he can transfer his consciousness into, therefore preserving him for all time. He says that Data will never know what death is like, and that's a sad thing for Data. They won't know what death, the fear of death will be like. But Data tells him that he does have an off switch and how that would be like death for him. And Graves gives him the mischievous look in his eyes. And he's like, ooh, really? And then the commercial break hits, and Data comes back to the rest of the away team and gives the news that Graves has died and they can all go now. So the Enterprise picks them all up and they give Graves a funeral. But Data gives Graves this weird over-the-top eulogy, and we hear him whistling "If I Only Had a Brain," which Graves was whistling earlier, so Data's acting very strangely. Picard confronts Data, and he says, "We need you to be analyzed," and Data acts weird about it, but he complies. And nothing comes up in the scans, but Troy can actually come up with emotional feelings from him for her empathic abilities, which is weird. But they finally do a brainwave test of some sort and figure out that there are two distinct personalities in Data's brain, one that seems normal but dormant, but the other is super arrogant and a huge dick and is threatening to take over his brain completely soon. And Picard figures out that Graves must have taken over Data's brain. Meanwhile, Data finds a grieving Kareen in 10 Forward and tells her that he is Graves and he wants to make an android body for her as well. But she freaks out and doesn't want that, so he accidentally breaks her wrists while he's talking to her. So Data/Graves then runs to engineering and knocks out Geordi and another engineer and hangs out there sulking for a while. Picard confronts him and tells him that he should give up Data's body because it's wrong. And look at all the harm he's causing because he's in Data's body. And Graves argues that Data's just a machine and it's no fair because he's a human and he should be able to live on like this. But Picard gets an alert suddenly in his radio about Kareen's wrist being broken, and Graves hears that and he's all confused and pissed off, and he knocks out Picard in his anger and confusion. When Picard awakens, they all go to Data's quarters and they find him unconscious on the ground. Apparently Graves relented and removed himself from Data's brain and transferred all his memories to the ship's computer without his consciousness connected to it. And so he's now dead. Data's back to normal, and the ship returns to the way it was before. So, Steve, what'd you think of the Schizoid Man?
All right, so some things I liked. Data beard was such a weird opening.
Oh my God. Yeah, I did mention my summary. Yes, it was wonderful.
Non sequitur that I wasn't sure if we were going to see more of it in the episode. It was kind of fun for it to be like a one thing.
Data had a beard at the beginning.
And yes. I find if I stroke my beard like thusly, it makes me appear more like it's a
great scene.
It's so good. The things I liked when that mean old terrible irredeemable man was told he was going to die. I like that moment. So I was like, thank God we don't have to listen to this asshole for too much longer. Little did I know. Some of the old man's contact with Data was like fun and whimsical, and I kind of dug some of it. It was almost redeeming, but then he would say these awful things. I'm like, nope, we're right back. Data's eulogy for him was just detached enough to work.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering the reveal later. It was like just close enough to like maybe be Data.
To know him is to love him. To love him is to know him.
It was really interesting to see everybody in the crew playing around Data's feelings. For an android who doesn't really have feelings at this point, per se. And so it was funny to watch people like tiptoeing around Data's emotions, which was odd.
Because they're weirded out by it, yeah.
Great getting to see Brent. Is it Spiner? Brent Spiner?
Spiner, yeah.
Play like not Data again. Anytime he gets to play not Data, it's been really good. It was a fun way to pull off a body snatcher story without having to do like a real body snatcher story. I did like at the end that Data chose and forced his way back and exerted his will. And Dr. Ira Graves being in the computer at the end was at least interesting. But at this point, they're just collecting assholes because they got Dr. Moriarty that they agreed to save 3 episodes ago. Now they got this jerk just living in their computer, I guess.
I did like that they mentioned that his consciousness is not there. So it's just like his memory is there in the computer, but not his conscious. At least there's that.
Things I've maybe struggled with a little bit more. They really laid it on thick for this actor, the old guy, Dr. Graves.
Oh, yeah.
Just to become hated incredibly quickly. And I wish they could have just been more subtle or found a way to spend a little bit more time with his character. Because it was so irredeemable. And the end, with him wanting to be saved, the audience needed to align with him a little bit.
I put the exact same thing in my first big note. You can even scroll down your notes.
Yeah.
I put the same first thing is that like this episode was so much more interesting if he was more redeemable, because then it would be a conundrum at that point. It'd be like, shit.
How do we let him go? Oh, he's in the computer. That'd be a good thing at the end.
Yeah. Or do we get rid of his consciousness because he was such a good person? That we want to save him. He was great for the Federation. He was a scientist. We need his brain in our society. But no, he was just a dick and we don't really need him. Then who cares? Get rid of him. Yeah, I agree entirely.
So that was just something I struggled with. And then I also love that like he died and they were immediately like, all right, we better take you somewhere to get on with your life. They even used the words to get on with her life.
Yeah. The assistant.
At one point, I was like, who the hell wrote this?
Get on with your life.
It was the first time in a while where I felt like something was truly MacGuffin-y in Star Trek. And it was when they had the head pads on Data to like test him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that is so, why? You could literally plug a cable into him. Why do you got to do this? It's stupid. Oh. Like, it was just one of those like, well, you didn't need that. Why did you feel like you had to make that stupid shit up?
Because his brain wouldn't be centralized necessarily in his head. Like, it's like
I know, but we've seen them like do diagnostic shit back here.
They plug that thing in the back of his neck. Yeah.
See, like, so what? I don't understand that. The romance angle with Data and what's her face? Kareen really did not play well for me. I think it was just the character of that old man being so awful just made even that not possible. Like the unlikability ruined that too.
If they explained it better, like showing that he was a better guy would have been great. And then showing that he always held off because he knew he was too old and he would never cross that boundary. But he did have an attraction and that he liked her, but he would never cross that boundary because he's a good person. That would have been okay. We could have understood that. And then now he's like, now I'm in this young body and I can be with you forever if you just get to an injury. Then we could have gone on to that. But yeah, they didn't earn that at all. So it just felt creepy the whole time. It just felt weird the whole time. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then this was one of the first times. So we've seen in Star Trek over and over again, where they take something that seems magical and then they science it. It seems like magic. It seems like, oh, that's crazy, but it's just a crazy alien entity doing a thing. This was the first time where I feel like they took something that just was purely sciencey and they made it mystical. They pushed it that way.
Oh yeah.
Because it was the old man talking about this machine he invented transfers consciousness. It was all very scientific. Data's the perfect guy. And then at some point they have this conversation about like, well, the ego is over. I think it was Troy maybe. Is overcoming, and once Data's ego recedes, blah blah blah. And I'm like, why did we take something very scientific and like?
They could have easily explained it scientifically, being like, oh, that programming is much more powerful than the programming that was there before. It will take over that programming and delete it or something. They could have explained it.
By this point, he's actively rewriting.
The programming. They could have explained it in a more scientific way.
Once he gets past the encryption, Data will be gone.
Right. There you go. One line. There you go.
But it was just felt dumb to take something already sciencey and make it mucky.
Yeah, they mucked it up.
and then also the same way, exact same thing where Picard tried to talk Data back. Just didn't feel great. There was no sign that Data was there involved. There was no real sign of an ordeal or a wrestle between the two of them before that point.
Well, yeah, like even in the end, I don't think Data ever came back. I think it was just the Dr. Graves' choice.
The other guy let go.
Yeah, that's what I saw. It was that he let go because he saw that he injured his love, and he's like, "Oh, I'm doing too much. I got to go." And then he just left.
He injures Picard and then injures her.
Right.
I interpreted that slightly differently. I interpreted that as because he did that, he like lost concentration and Data.
Oh, I didn't take that way at all.
Was able to grab the wheel again.
I think it's bad.
That's how I interpreted it.
I think it's bad that Data didn't take any kind of charge here, but I saw it as it was just Graves being regretful and leaving,
walking away.
Yeah,
I mean that would also make sense from a story perspective. If so, then it ruins my mental narrative for Data, where like he had to choose. Because that's the other thing the old guy kept talking about. Like he doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have an opinion. He's a machine. Like
right. And
so I thought that the moral was going to be like Data chose life.
That'd be better. I would love that. That'd be great.
Right. and so that flavored this for me. But the thing you said actually makes more sense.
Yeah, that would be because the fact that the Doctor had the chance to put his memory into the ship, like he had the choice to do that. I think it was all driven by Dr. Graves. And I think a missed opportunity. You're right. They should have had more Data choosing explicitly to exist. And also I'm still waiting for more consistent A and B stories. Like there was not any B story to this one. Again, we get more of those going forward, but like it was
a couple imbalanced.
Yeah. Right. It was just all this. There was like the beard. I thought the beard was going somewhere with like having like a second story, but there was nothing. I thought it was weird that Dr. Pulaski gave the medical officer's log in the beginning of the episode, making you think it was going to be like an episode featuring her, but then she was just gone the rest of the episode. I also think they could have done more with Brett Spiner being able to have emotions this episode. And he, like you said, he was great, but like they could have done a lot more with him having emotions and flirtations, and they just didn't have enough.
Yeah.
I did like how they had
just that old man being awful.
Yeah, just old man being awful. That was it. I like how they had a demonstration of how dangerous Data could be if he was a jerk, because like he's so strong and smart.
Yeah.
That like he just knocked people out within a second. Like he's just so strong and powerful. Like that was pretty cool. But
that being said, there were some suspicious moments where like it felt like Picard could have like put him into a corner, sort of. And he was like, Data, I want you to go to engineering and have a full workup done. And Data's like, I can run my own check. I'm fine. I just checked. Like,
yeah, exactly. I'm great. Cool.
It's like Picard could have gone like, no, you need to go down and be seen right now.
So, I mean, overall, I think because of the missed potential, I'm going to give this one like a 5.5, like on a 10-point scale. It's like, it's good. It was entertaining, but they could have done so much more with it and missed opportunities.
I mean, honestly, I think this one's sliding maybe towards the bottom of my scale for the season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it still was just like, ugh, they could have done so much better. Yeah. So I get what you're saying.
You had it all and you did nothing.
You had it all. So some Trek facts of this. We got some fun ones. Dr. Solar, a Vulcan officer on the Enterprise D, is frequently mentioned throughout the series, but this is the only time that she appears, that Vulcan officer. And that's too bad. She was pretty cool.
That's it? Yeah. Why would they introduce her with makeup and like a real costume and not
don't
use
worry,
her again?
That actress comes back as a very prominent Klingon. She's awesome.
Oh, cool.
And she's very sexy. In a never filmed scene in the script, Data was also to have a bald head, mimicking Picard, after his Riker-like beard proved unpopular with Geordi and Deanna. So he's going to come back as like a with a bald head.
Okay.
This is the only TNG
I can see it.
Yeah, this is the only TNG episode where a multi-person landing party is not made up of at least one member that is 100% human, because this is the only episode of the whole 7-year series where it was just Worf, Data, Troy, and Dr. Solar. So it was like all non-humans, which is pretty cool.
Can we not pretend like Deanna Troy isn't just treated like a human?
She is, but she's half Betazoid, so it's cool.
I know, but let's,
So Dr. Ira Graves is the first of several roles for William Morgan Shepard, who played Dr. Ira Graves. He would go on to play a Klingon commander in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Katai in Bliss, an episode of the Star Trek 2009 reboot. He played Vulcan science minister in that reboot. So I guess
he's the guy. He's the guy that Spock mouths off to at the Science Academy.
Yes, I think Katai. They're saying in Bliss. I think that's in Enterprise. So he's Enterprise. Then he was in 2009's reboot as the Vulcan science minister, and he's the father of Mark Shepard, who you'll know as Crowley in Supernatural, or Romo Lampkin in Battlestar Galactica. He's the lawyer guy in Battlestar Galactica. And a lot of things. You'll recognize his face immediately. I saw him at Dragon Con at a bar. He was a pretty cool guy. But yeah, check him out. They're good people.
Okay, I signed him now. He also did Firefly. Is that right?
Probably in Firefly. Yeah, there you go. He's a lot of genre
there
films.
You go. I know some stuff.
Great voice. Troy's inability to stifle her laughter, forcing her to leave the room, was a result of Marina Sirtis finding the image of Data with a beard too hilarious to contain her laughter, necessitating her exit. Thankfully, Brent Spiner and LeVar Burton never broke character, allowing the scene to continue as filmed. So that was all improvised, which is pretty fun. As we mentioned, Lieutenant Solar, the Vulcan medical officer, played by Susie Plaxon, later plays the Klingon Kalar in multiple TNG episodes. She also played a female Q in a Voyager episode we'll see later on, an Andorian called Tara in an Enterprise episode later on when we're like in our 50s when we're watching that episode. So yeah, that'll happen. Yep, there you go.
50 sounds right.
The title Schizoid Man describes Dr. Graves as schizoid, referring to his lack of interest in social relationships, tendency towards a solitary lifestyle, secretiveness, emotional coldness, and apathy. That's what schizoid apparently means. Last one, Dr. Graves inhabiting Data's body deftly whistles a tune. And in the pilot Encounter at Farpoint, it is revealed that among the human traits with which Data has trouble mimicking, whistling is among the most difficult. Therefore, it is even more obvious that Data's body has been taken over, considering the ease with which he whistles the tune. So that's kind of like a little inside Easter egg there, if you had noticed. But there you go.
Data does have a passion for music.
That's right. And we have a passion for things that are so similar, like these two episodes.
Well, or things that connect them even.
Or things that connect them even.
I got two Trek connects real quick.
Nice.
Dr. Ira Graves, he played by the actor William Morgan Shepard. He was also in the 2009 Star Trek, as you mentioned. Also in that was Simon Pegg as Montgomery Scott. Simon Pegg then voiced Chamberlain in the Netflix Dark Crystal Age of Resistance series. Bam.
Kareen, played by Barbara Allen Woods, did 2 episodes of The Goldbergs, produced by Adam F. Goldberg, who was also a producer on Muppets Mayhem.
Oh, I still haven't seen Muppets Mayhem. Yeah.
Oh, it's one of the better Muppet things in the last 20 years.
Nice.
But now we can talk about how these are both basically the same episode, finally.
Oh, they're
what
so
everyone's
simple.
been thinking about.
Of course. Both have someone put in charge of something, and they don't quite know what to do with it. Mokie, when she's the ruler of the rock, and Dr. Graves, when he takes control of Data, because he does a lot of wrong things when he's in charge of Data.
Who can trust that old guy?
Nobody.
Both feature an old dude giving out bad advice. The oldest Fraggle leading the others into a potentially dangerous game wherein one of them could make all of Fraggle them like part of a cult. They just kind of let it happen.
True.
And Dr. Graves reminiscing on Data and musing about his life's work and its meaning.
Both have something falling or disappearing from their face. The pickle falling off of Wembley when he's trying to balance it, and Data's beard.
His beard just disappears.
Disappears. The next scene.
Both feature commentary and statements about the equality of beings. Next Generation's commentary on the value of Data's life compared to that of a flesh and blood being, and the sign that the Fraggle holds that equates Gorg lives to Fraggle lives.
What a deep cut. I like that. Both
I just
have
like that only one of them had a sign.
Yeah, just the one.
It was not a widespread feeling. That
like,
one
no,
guy.
Gorgs are not equal to Fraggles. That is not a thing. Both have characters finding out they have someone puppeteering their actions. Data finds out that Dr. Graves had taken over his body, puppeteering his whole body. And Uncle Traveling Matt loses control of his actions from the marionette puppeteer. It's true.
I pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah, you do. Oh, God, what's the news? Oh, God.
Transporter malfunction.
So it's part of the show where we transport one character from one episode to the other and vice versa. So what you got for us, Steve?
Trek to Rock this week, I'm going to bring over Kareen to replace Mokie. Both had sort of the same sad, sullen vibe this whole episode.
You're not wrong.
Feels like it would work.
That's true. Trek to Rock, I'm have Picard come over and take the place of Mokie because he would actually have 3 commandments to throw down immediately.
He would have good ideas.
To make Fraggle lives better. He would be like, no, do this, and do that immediately.
Rock to Trek, I'm going to bring over Doc to replace Dr. Graves because it would just be a much more pleasant episode. I think that if Doc came over and replaced Dr. Graves, it would fix the issue that you and I had with this whole episode.
Him being a nice guy to begin with? Yeah.
Yeah, and like you would feel bad about it.
It's like, oh, should we get rid of him? I don't know. He's great. He's a nice guy.
I guess so. That's another similarity. Both feature old men changing their minds.
That's true. Because I have,
there you go.
My Rock to Trek is very similar because I'd have the world's oldest Fraggle come and take the place of Dr. Graves because he'd be super cool about taking over Data and he'd probably just share space in his head so they could equally share the space, like be there together as one person.
I only need half of this room.
I've been around a long time. It's fine. Are there some pretty ladies in the ship? That's cool.
You can go anywhere.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of episode 134 of the MuppeTrek podcast.
Join us next time for Fraggle Rock episode, We Love You, Wembley.
And Star Trek Next Generation episode, Unnatural Selection.
So from the lovers, the dreamers, and us.
Live long and prosper, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the MuppeTrek podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media on Facebook and Twitter.
Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
This podcast has been brought to you by A Play on Nerds.